Hello and welcome to today's very special bonus episode of Real Life Ghost Stories, where I am joined by the Three Ravens podcast. Now, the Three Ravens podcast is an independent myth and folklore podcast hosted by Eleanor and Martin. Each weekly episode focuses on one of England's 39 historic counties, and as you'll hear in our chat, they have expanded beyond just focusing on England. The episodes explore the history, folklore and traditions of the area, from ghosts and mermaids to mythical monsters, half-forgotten heroes, bloody legends and much, much more. Then, and most importantly, they take turns to tell a new version of an ancient story from that county, all before discussing what that tale might mean, where it might have come from and the truths it reveals about England's hidden past. This was such a gorgeous chat, and I feel like Eleanor and Martin have this unbridled passion and love for myth and storytelling and folklore, and that really comes across. They've also just released a book of English myth and folklore, which is very exciting and so well deserved. They have worked so hard on the podcast, on their live events, and of course on this book that they've just released. As per usual, the links to where you can find all the information that you could possibly need about the Three Ravens podcast and about Eleanor and Martin and their various projects will be in the description of this episode. And as always with these virtual episodes, this is remotely recorded, so it will sound slightly different than normal. Still absolutely fine, don't you worry. And please, if you're listening to this and you like what you hear, go and check out the Three Ravens podcast. Honestly, independent podcasting is so hard. It is so hard to find ways to promote yourself when you are doing it completely on your own and you don't have the backing of big business behind you. So if you are listening to this, if you like what you hear, please do go and check them out, follow them, tell your friends, buy their book, all of that good stuff. And obviously a massive thank you to Eleanor and Martin for taking the time to come and chat with me. And of course, I hope you enjoy the episode. And I am joined in the virtual studio by the wonderful Martin and Eleanor from Three Ravens. Hello.
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 We are living dreams here. We've been listening to your podcast for 1,000 years, as you know.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you for having us.
Oh, and thank you for joining me. I absolutely love doing these episodes. I think it's so much fun to find out all the spooky things about people who are also in the podcast community and in the just weird folkloric space community.
Yeah.
So can you guys tell me a bit about yourselves? Who are you? What do you do? Why are you here?
Do you want to start?
Sure. Well, we are a couple and we started podcasting together about 2 years ago now, having worked together a little bit before. My background's in theatre, and so we had done quite a bit of theatre stuff together previously and had always been wondering whether there was something that we could do together that would be sustainable also as a business and kind of a way to live.
Yeah.
And we went through quite a lot of different ideas, including starting various cottage industries from our front room, none of which we realized was going to really work out for us in the long run. I mean, I think the weaving business that we were thinking about establishing probably wouldn't have worked out, given that we both have sore backs. So
and also
ultimately
Brexit, all of that, trying to sell stuff overseas, quite difficult. It's only got worse since then as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Eleanor and I were talking for ages about what to do, and eventually I was having a bath, and in my baths are good places for thinking.
All the best ideas.
And I had this realization. Eleanor and I have a lot of business meetings in the bath or around the bath, and she came home one day and I'd had this idea, which is, well, why don't we go county by county around the historic counties of England? There are 39 of them, and look week by week at the folklore and folk tales and ghost stories and so on of each county, taking it in turns. So Eleanor does one week, I do the next one, and then we'll just venture around, and 39 splits nicely into 13s. So we do 13 episode seasons when we're running the podcast like full pelt. And we will do a new story, a retelling of an old tale from each county in England each week. So that's sort of where Three Ravens started. But
kind of went from there and expanded in all sorts of different directions.
That's right. It's kind of gone a bit bonkers since then.
And very cleverly doing stories, doing an episode per county. God, you've got so much room to do multiple episode upon episode per county, so you could have
for some
endless
counties.
seasons.
Well, kind of. I mean, we concluded after doing, because we just, I guess at the start of the summer, finished our second lap around all 39 counties. Because like series 1, 2, and 3, we're really proud of, and the podcast grew quite a lot in there, and we started to introduce bonus series and stuff. And then we learned from doing the first lap, right, there are some things we want to improve upon for lap 2, where we kind of swapped. So whereas Eleanor started with Sussex before, which is where we live, I did Sussex second lap round. But then we reached the end of that, and we concluded there are some counties that we could keep mining for years. But there are some where it would be really quite difficult.
Yorkshire's great because it's massive, but then you've got Rutland,
which is tiny,
which is really difficult. You can walk around the whole county in a day, pretty much.
So. and we have. I don't think you will find a better collection of like Rutland's folkloric canon than our 2 episodes about it.
We have scraped the barrel on that one.
But our conclusion was sort of midway through our second lap that we needed to move on to other countries and look county by county around them. So series 7 of 3 Ravens, which will launch on the 1st of September, I think.
It's the start of September. The 1st,
that will see us going around the 13 historic counties of Wales.
Love that.
And then once we've done that, we're going to do the 13 original states of the United States Union and look at their folklore.
Conveniently also 13.
Yeah, and then
sort of
blend that up. So we do a bit of America, then we'll do a bit of Scotland, then we'll do a bit of Ireland, and kind of just keep moving around so that we're exploring and hopefully drawing connections between folktales and ghost lore and all sorts of interesting things, because it turns out that we all share pretty much all these stories.
Yeah, and it is amazing when you start delving into stories from other countries where you go, oh, that's really similar to this story from this place. And then you look at migration patterns and you're like, oh, that's why. I love when stuff like that happens and you can draw those parallels. It's so exciting.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we say it a lot on the podcast, but it seems like small boats may have been a pretty common feature of human life ever since this country kind of came out of the last ice age. So best get used to it, everyone.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, this is the most important question you might ever be asked in your life. And it's my favorite question to like people, because I judge people based on their answer. No pressure. What is your favorite horror film and why?
Okay.
Really difficult question, and I'm glad you warned us about this in advance, because I think I'm one of those people who freezes when you ask me my favorite of anything. But it takes me a few minutes to think about it. But for me, I'm going to choose The Exorcist because I watched the film originally when I was far too young to watch the film, because my dad is a real horror buff and he showed it to me when he really shouldn't have done. And we used to watch a lot of horror films together when I was growing up. So aside from being a great piece of cinema and still quite terrifying, I have this real nostalgia attached to The Exorcist as well. So I sort of have a warm, fuzzy feeling at the same time as looking through my fingers at it.
And your interest in The Exorcist does not just stop at The Exorcist. Like, you've watched a lot of things around The Exorcist. You've been, like, when they put on a live stage show of The Exorcist.
We went to see The Exorcist on stage. Great, incidentally. What a fun time.
At the same theatre where they're now doing the Stranger Things show.
Yeah, and I'm always kind of searching for retellings within the genre, like using the tropes of The Exorcist, and very few stand up to the original.
They're never good.
No, they're never good. Exorcist 2, 3, 7, Revelation, absolutely not.
No. And it's so funny because everybody who says The Exorcist, and it comes, as you can imagine, it comes up a lot. I think it is one of the seminal horror films ever made. Everyone who says it's their favorite, they always go, I watched it when I was far too young.
And it's funny, isn't it? But that's the one that will always stay with me. I mean, I could probably quote Exorcist, which is not a great skill to have, really.
I mean, the music for it's amazing. The impact on the cultural consciousness that it had. I mean, like the satanic panic and everything that kind of follows after that. It's like, The Exorcist made everyone paranoid about demons.
Hugely responsible for this kind of cultural movement that was created by the filmmakers.
Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant. And then for me, it's probably John Carpenter's The Thing, which I think is pretty hard to beat. I think it's one of not just the best horror films, but one of the best films ever made. And wrote about it for my masters even. I blimmin' love The Thing.
We're both big fans of traditional effects in horror films, and The Thing is just such a joy from that perspective.
Yeah, it's the apex, like the absolute high point of creature feature experimental horror special effects before then the CG era begins to sort of mess with things. And then you get the 90s where horror movies just become a bit weird and not very good.
Yeah, the 90s was sort of not a great time for horror. That is true.
Yeah, there are some weird cult films because we run, as part of our Patreon, the Three Ravens Film Club, where every month we recommend a horror film that we're going to watch with our listeners as a community. And then we record an episode that comes out on the last Thursday of every month where we'll go through horror movies from across the decades specifically. And the 90s films are always really interesting because they're off the wall. They're quite strange. One of the favorites that we've actually watched for the film club, for me, is Cemetery Man, starring Rupert Everett, when Rupert Everett's young. I don't know if you've seen it.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
I don't even know if you can call Cemetery Man a horror film in a true sense, but it is really unusual.
Yeah, it's got those kinds of splattery horror zombie effects that are reminiscent of something like Brain Dead or Bad Taste from Peter Jackson's early days, but it's also a slightly porny film. It's also got all this stuff going on with love beyond the grave and loving death, and Rupert Everett's absolutely gorgeous in his younger years.
18, isn't he?
Yeah, and the film's set in Italy, so you've got this Italian architecture. It's a really beautiful kind of gothic send-up, I guess you'd call Cemetery Man.
I'm looking at pictures from Cemetery Man right now. Let me tell you, that looks like it's a wild ride.
Yeah, it's wicked.
It's good fun.
It's a really cool film. But that or Ravenous, I'm sure you've seen Ravenous, right? With Guy Pearce.
Oh my God, I love Ravenous.
Incredible film, but really strange. Total commercial failure when it came out. Cult movie, and yet cannibal cowboys. All this kind of weird
period drama.
Stuff. Yeah, it's a period drama.
Actually, quite a good one.
Yeah, exactly. So, the 90s, you have to scratch away to find. Yeah. Whereas if you're looking at the 80s, you're safe. There's so much great horror there.
Yeah, there really is. Do you guys engage much with modern horror when it comes out in cinema?
Yeah, we try and see. We're actually hoping to go and see Bring Her Back this evening.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because we really enjoyed Talk to Me.
Yeah, that's right.
Talk to Me. Go and check that out later. Yeah, we do. We try and see it in the cinema because it's obviously a slightly underloved genre. Yeah. And it's so much fun in the cinema.
Yeah, definitely.
You get a lot more out of it.
We want to see Weapons as well. Yeah. So yeah, pretty much if there's a decent, half decent horror movie, then we will try and go and see it at the movies. Yeah. If not, we'll just keep the list at home and knock things off as we go. But we're always trying to look for things that have a slightly folk horror edge, because that's kind of the place where we live a lot of the time. Don't get me wrong, a possession movies can be great, but normally they're not as good as The Exorcist. And an alien movie can be great, but normally they're not as good as Alien. So you're okay, what's happening new? That's the challenge.
That's it. And it's and new that isn't a cash grab and catastrophically awful. Which I will say, Bring Her Back and Weapons are both great horror films. Loved them both. Excited for you guys to see them. Bring Her Back in particular is my horror film of the year so far.
Awesome.
Oh, that's just great. And I also enjoyed Talk to Me, and I thought it was miles better. So that's
can't wait.
Yes. And I went to see Weapons the other night to a full cinema.
Great.
Hey,
yes.
So good.
That's very good.
That's so good. Yeah.
And Weapons was also great. But I did so there's a new iteration of War of the Worlds that's just come out. Have you guys seen this?
I've read a bit, watched the trailer.
With Ice Cube, right?
Life's too short. Yeah, life's too short for that.
Yeah, so I started watching it the other day. Now let me tell you, right? I've also recently watched the Tom Cruise War of the Worlds, which I will say is a decent film.
It ain't that bad. The bit where he runs through the dude who's just been turned to dust and vaporized. It's an incredible bit of cinema.
Literally was talking about that moment where he's covered in human dust and you're like, this is horrendous. So I watched the new version.
I mean, obviously, we listen to real life ghost stories and we listen to your film reviews. We don't always see 100% eye to eye on things, but we're always interested to hear your perspective on stuff. But you watch a lot more trashy horror than we do. Like, we'll occasionally watch a bit of trashy horror.
We often say Emma does it, so we don't have to.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
So we can listen to your review and go, yeah, okay, we will.
Like, if I offer up nothing else in this world, it's that I watch terrible horror films so people don't have to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't finish War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
No.
Because I thought, I've had enough of this already. Actually, I'm bored of this. This is stupid.
That's it. You know, I wasn't joking when I said life's too short. Like,
it really is.
Where we were spitting, so angry. Napoleon, Ridley Scott's Napoleon, which is just, it's crap. It's so bad. And you think, all the money that's been spent on this, all the talent that's involved, and it's a disaster.
No, we didn't make it very far through that.
Awful. We did about 40 minutes.
Gave it 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Just like, do you want to carry
on?
I can say it doesn't improve.
No. Well, I can imagine so.
Minutes. So it's not like after that 40 minutes, it suddenly became this epic film. No, you made the right choice with that one. Yeah. It's funny, isn't it? And you just feel like, I'm so disappointed. You had a great story right there in the palm of your hand, all this talent, and this is what you come up with.
Yeah, that's it. And for me, because like my background academically is in romanticism and sort of like 18th into 19th century, Napoleon's a very important figure, like reshaped Europe, certainly. And to cack-handedly fumble such a fantastic character, just do such a bad job, it was sort of unforgivable, particularly because with Ridley Scott, you know, the guy's made some pretty great movies.
Awesome movies.
I really enjoyed The Last Duel. I know that film took a lot of flack from people, but I thought it was pretty good.
We both enjoyed that. Actually.
Yeah, Matt Damon and Adam Driver.
Napoleon, you can keep.
Napoleon can go away. Gladiator 2 recently.
Gladiator 2 made me incredibly sad.
Yeah.
I thought to myself, you know what? I couldn't care less about any of the characters in this. I literally couldn't care less. I was like, and I when I saw the twin emperors, who I imagine were sort of based on the madness of Caligula, I thought, yes, get it. This is boring. I was like, you haven't done a single thing actually that would lead me to believe that you are this mad, bloodthirsty emperor. You just have dodgy hair. That's as far as you've gotten.
And you shout a lot. You do a lot of shouting. I don't care. Like, that doesn't convince me that you're a sinister or dangerous person.
Ginger isn't a personality trait.
But to draw like some connective tissue between like those like two projects, Napoleon and Gladiator 2, like Joaquin Phoenix in the first Gladiator, part of why it works is because he's playing such a camp bad guy. He's like ridiculous with his speech impediment and stuff.
Yes, and he's terrifying.
Yeah, he is. He's disturbing.
He can be a really disturbing character, and then you end up with these twins with a monkey. It was just and Denzel Washington. Stop it. Anyway, we've totally gone off track completely.
Yeah, this is almost the birth of a new podcast where we just talk.
I know.
Yeah,
where we slag films off. So we've sort of touched a little bit about Three Ravens podcast.
Yeah.
About the general premise, which is obviously you take county by county and now expanding globally to find little folkloric gems and retell those folkloric gems from around the world, and specifically, obviously, originally around England itself. So, but you guys have branched out and you're doing other things. Can you tell me about the other things that you're doing?
Okay, well, I mean, as we talked about when you came on Three Ravens for Local Legends and we talked about Kent and its folklore and you shared some really cool, awesome stories, I was talking about your productivity, your release schedule, which when we were starting Three Ravens, we were planning to launch it, you know, we were listening to obviously a few things. I've been listening, most of them through the pandemic and stuff, but you and Dan were a huge inspiration for us. And the 3 episodes a week that you put out it's just an incredible churn.
We were just like, how is she doing it?
Yeah, that is the best.
It is amazing.
In show, like that is the best example of an independent podcast in this country doing it. So let's see what we can do. So the first thing we did is we started to release some county episodes come out on Mondays. We started to release on Thursdays rolling bonus series where each week of the month is a different kind of theme that we're covering.
Yeah, and they're all themes that we've sort of picked up on previously and listeners have been interested in, so we've sort of built them out a little bit. So there's one where we talk about the history of magic and medicine and kind of crazy cures and superstitions and charms and things that people have tried, and magical traditions through the ages.
Yeah, everything from like witch bottles that people use to stop witches invading their homes
to the zodiac. You know, anything that people have sort of been interested in from an esoteric sciences perspective.
And then I do the Three Ravens Bestiary, which is looking at the history of cryptids and mythical creatures. So where can we find the earliest references to them in the historical or literary record, and then sort of trace their journey. What do they represent? Why are they important to us? Why do we care over time?
And I did one all about traditional crafts that used to be practiced as a part of people's livelihood but are dying out or red listed for whatever reason. And we've put that one temporarily to sleep. It's curled in its handmade basket now and replaced it with a folk music series instead, where we'll sort of explore the history and versions of various folk songs around a theme each week. And we record new versions of those songs as part of that.
And then the last one, I originally did a series called Something Wicked. All of these bonus series, there are 13 episodes of them, so they're all available to listen to. But Something Wicked was all true crimes with folkloric or supernatural twists. So from the historical record across time. And I did love doing it, found it really interesting. There were a couple of problems with it. One was the number of female characters and stories that I could find, because there's a lot of psychopathic men over time. Who knew?
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, exactly. And then after we finished the 13th episode of that with Henry VIII, who was a monster, by the way, we then shifted over to my series Magus, which is all about the history and sort of legacies in the modern day of famous witches and wizards from across time. So anything from King Solomon to Mother Shipton to Giordano Bruno. Basically, it's like a free-for-all, and I'm having loads of fun with that.
So I'm going completely off piste now. This was not the next question on the list. I sent you, so I apologize. Especially Eleanor's just like, I hate when people ask me things.
I'll do my best.
You guys are obviously like deeply entrenched in not only your love of folklore, but you also kind of enacted in your life, as in through theatre, through performance, obviously through the podcast. What do you think prompted your love of folklore?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, you should go first, because I'm going to think about the question.
Oh, thanks.
I'm sorry. Don't hate me.
No, not at all. It's a great question. I mean, I think I've always been interested in the stories of places from my childhood. I went on a lot of trips within England when I was growing up. We didn't really do foreign holidays when I was a child. And one of the places we went to a lot was Cornwall, so right down in the far southwest. And that was an incredibly inspiring place to me, because it's absolutely packed with mermaid legends, ghosts, pixies, you name it, it's in Cornwall. So I always kind of had this magical summer location where I would go to and sort of entrench myself in that from being quite little. And I think just as I've grown up, I've sought out stories from further afield and from closer to home as well. But that probably kicked it all off for me. And I've never lost the interest. I think within folk tales, we can find themes that are universal, that are adaptable for changing times. You know, you can find something in a story that works for you now, even though the same story worked for you when you were 5. Something different in it will work, but it can still be relevant to you.
Yeah. I think for me, there's kind of 2 factors. One is when I was quite little, and you read my take on this out on the podcast some time ago in an episode called Elton Road on Real Life Ghost Stories. But I was visited by my great-grandfather when he had passed on, basically the night of his death. And I didn't know he'd passed on, but he came and said goodbye and then left. And then I asked my father, why was great-granddad here? And he said, well, how do you know about great-granddad? What do you mean, how do I know about great-granddad? He was here. No, he's not here. He died this afternoon. And so that one was like okay, I'm curious about this supernatural business. And from then on, I've just been interested in ghosts in particular. But, the Osborne Book of the Unknown, and we talked about that again during our chat, Emma, but, it was
which is a gateway drug for all spooky people.
That's it. Like people of our generation, all the spooky kids, we all know that book. And then the other side of it is I grew up a lot of my life outside of England. So my dad worked in like overseas development, basically helping people establish quite large industrial farms and teaching people ex-Commonwealth nations and so on and so forth, helping developing governments. And so I grew up kind of hopping between all these foreign countries. And I thought that was normal. I thought people were sort of, everyone was having their experiences of hopping around between different nations or learning about the world and how different cultures are. But that made me see England as an outsider, or Great Britain, the United Kingdom, as an outsider, I think. And then when I was reading English literature, which is one of my great loves, I would be encountering all of these strange quirks of history or little fairy tales threaded through stories, and then, scratch away at those, go to the encyclopedia, learn more. And then all of a sudden, I was sort of down the rabbit warren of folklore.
Yeah, it's just so fascinating because I feel like, I don't know if this is because I'm Irish and Irish folklore is entrenched in everyday life for Irish people, and you learn elements of it without even kind of realizing that it's folklore, but I feel like here people aren't it's not as entrenched in everyday life as it is maybe elsewhere, and I find that quite sad because I think English folklore is fantastic. There's so many great stories, there's so many great festivals, there's so many great ways to perform and engage with folklore, and I think elements of it have maybe been lost or aren't as prominent in society. And I love the fact that you guys are it's so embedded in your lives.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that we've discovered through doing this project that we weren't really aware of before is that the English lacked an identity. A lot of folklore came about through nationalist movements. So like Irish nationalism, if you trace it back to its start, a lot of the stories, the folk tales, they really burst into life and people become more aware of them when Ireland is trying to define its identity in opposition to the English. Likewise, the Scots, likewise, the Welsh. The English are the ones
struggle.
The ones who are being opposed, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And what is the English national dress?
Yeah, it doesn't exist.
What are the English national instruments?
And it's very hard for us, I think, to have a collective national identity unless it comes through something like sport. Obviously, football is very important to a lot of people, but that's not specifically English. Football's important to people all over the place.
But as soon as you start to then look at England as a place, is it one country? Is it several countries? When you start to look at the counties and why they exist, you start to realize there's some deep politics that goes back a long way. The separations between like the north of England and the south, for example, quite significant. The territories of the old Britons, part of the Celtic nations, where you've got like Cornwall and Ireland and Wales and Scotland.
Ask anyone in Cornwall and they'll say they're a separate kingdom anyway.
Yeah, that's
they're not
right.
even England.
But then there are the same stories repeated with different names attributed to people. King Arthur and Merlin and all that sort of stuff crops up from like the earliest writing there is on these islands. So it's like, to what degree is there a nation at all, or is it just an arbitrary thing where people have drawn a map and gone, that's England, and if you tell me it's not, I'm going to kill you because I'm the king.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, I totally just took you off guard there and asking you a random, quite a deep question, actually.
No, it's a good one.
Did you guys have a ghost story that absolutely terrified you as a child?
Okay, so I can do this one easily because mine is a fictional ghost story, but nonetheless, like based on Dan Aykroyd's research, giving it all away. But for me as a young boy, Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters movie, the demon dogs that chase people down, particularly Rick Moranis, absolutely scared the bejesus out of me. And I had nightmares about them for years. And my preoccupation with demon dogs, Black Shuck, that has never left me. I still love all that stuff. And right now, like all of August, we are doing this thing called Dog Days, where we're writing an entire book, basically. And releasing a new chapter of it day by day, where we're writing alternating chapters, which is all set in Shakespeare's London, follows Kit Marlowe on a series of adventures where people in London are being killed by demon dogs. And it's kind of like a murder mystery with supernatural elements. So yeah, that carries through the demon dogs thing.
I also love how much all of these things that happened to us when we were children, they just, carry on to our adult lives. You were absolutely terrified of the demon dogs in Ghostbusters, and now here you are writing about demon dogs every other day,
trying to freak everybody out.
Become the thing you fear.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
I have.
Part of the healing.
Whereas
the demon dog.
I don't know if you get afraid.
I do get afraid.
In the same way.
I don't want this to come across the wrong way on the Real Life Ghost Stories podcast. I do believe in ghosts, but I'm quite ghost skeptical.
Oh, me too.
At the same time, I will attribute it to anything before I will say that's a ghost. I'm very much, no, that's pipes. No, that's a creek. No, that's my imagination.
But even when we have gone out looking for ghosts and have found them for the podcast, Eleanor, even when faced with actual evidence,
I'm like, are you sure? Maybe
it could be something else.
Could be pipes.
There's no other explanation for what just happened. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't remember being particularly frightened by ghosts and stories of ghosts when I was younger. I was scared more of people, which I think are much scarier. I'm very scared of home invasions. So anytime that's in a horror or a thriller, that one puts the wind up me, because it's too easy to imagine. Whereas a ghostly figure in the corner of my bedroom doesn't bother me too much.
Eleanor's a heavy sleeper.
I am. So to be honest, the ghost could be having a disco on the bed and I would be fully unaware.
I'll be freaking out and wanting to kick something down the stairs. But not able to because I'm frozen in fear, and Eleanor will just be happily snoozing.
Snoring.
Yep.
I'm a bit like you, and things happen, and I just sort of go, well,
okay.
What's the worst that can happen? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had an incident before Christmas where I heard a man's voice in my house, and I when I realized that it wasn't a physical man, and my brain went, oh, potentially then is it a ghost, is it something paranormal, then I was like, oh, that's fine, then I'm going to sleep. I just was like, okay, sure. I'd much the idea of a physical man being in my house, to me, much more terrifying. A ghost, fine, what's it gonna do, really?
And what are you going to do? You can't call the police on a ghost.
No, that's also true. You need to figure out your own solutions. And mostly, in my experience, that is just stay very still and hope it goes away.
Go back to sleep.
Yeah, just snooze. That's my answer to everything. Just sleep. It's fine. So have you guys got a favorite legend, piece of folklore, ghost story about your local town or village? Now, that can be the one that you're in now or where you grew up. And I know, Martin, for you, that's a bit more complicated because it was a bit of a smorgasbord of growing up.
Well, interestingly, we just found out, as in the last couple of weeks, found out that in the 1980s, the village we're currently living in was the center of a mini satanic panic. Yeah. It's not so much a ghost story. It's actually a story of fraud. And we just discovered this. And this confidence trickster came to our village and managed to convince the local rector at the time that there was a cult of Satanists around the village and they needed to fight. They could fight and stop the Satanists. And he managed to extract loads of money from the rector and the parish council and all of this. So I mean, not really a ghost story, but we just found it out and we're like, really?
Yeah.
Well, it was one of those moments where we're sort of looking at it was a film somebody had made. But hang on, that's that's our village sign.
Yeah.
That was here.
Nuts.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's Newark
in
Sussex where we live.
There.
And there are a few ghosts around here specifically that are, fairly well known. So one of the roads in is called the Goldbridge Road, and that road is, I have walked down it in the dark.
Yeah.
And it is quite a dangerous road to walk down in the dark. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that lots and lots of people have been struck by, if not cars, then carriages back in the day on that road. But it's known that you will see things on the road, the Goldbridge Road, as you come through. One of the most commonly reported apparitions is of a ghostly highwayman, which is an old classic. There's always ghostly highwaymen in every county of this country, it seems like. But nonetheless, that one can be seen walking, but is also sometimes seen riding a horse, and then, disappears when people get close to it. But, we've had a couple of wobbles on that road in the car where it's been like, oh, okay, all right, we need to really focus because there's something strange about this place.
I think there's meant to be a man in a high vis as well, just in one of the bushes, who just stands there.
Yeah. And then you were looking at Fonthill the other day.
Yeah, so I was looking, apparently there's a haunted area up near an old farmhouse where weird things happen on the road, and a number of trees have fallen down and struck cars sort of seemingly out of the blue, with no apparent rot or reason why. So that's a creepy area. There's a little bit around for what's quite a small place, really.
Yeah, we live in a small village in rural Sussex, but everywhere you go, if you just ask around, there's ghostly stuff going on.
That's why I love sort of this topic in general of ghost stories, folklore, whatever. You might go to a place and think, there's no soul, there's no depth to it. And then you ask around and you go, there's this wealth of stories that exist that people just aren't engaging with. I just love it.
Yeah, same. Three Ravens has been absolutely wonderful for that. And one of the best things about the podcast, I would say, is having listeners get in touch with us going, I live here. I had no idea that was down the road from me. And then, people going and exploring stuff and getting back to us and sending photos on day trips and things. Really it's so cool. Nice.
Yeah, that is so good.
As well, if you've talked about something and someone will go, wait, I know that.
Yeah, that's my part of the world. Yeah, I love when that happens. If one cryptid, this is my sort of second favorite question that I like to ask people, because I think, again, I will be judging. If one cryptid was proven categorically to be real, what cryptid would you want it to be and why?
Yeah,
I would really, really like Mothman to be real, because isn't that great? I just think that is delightful, and moth babies and the whole cult of Mothman. I would like that a lot. But I also like the kind of big beast sort of cryptids, so big cats, phantom dogs,
yes,
chicks, obviously. The village I grew up in, which is actually not very far from here at all, which makes me sound like a bumpkin. I did used to live in London, I promise.
Yeah, for a bit.
But I grew up in a village around here, and we supposedly had a panther.
Yeah,
so a big black cat. Very unlikely that there was a panther on the loose in a small Sussex village, but lots of people from that area have claimed to have seen the Plumpton panther.
We get a lot of reports of very large wildcats on the South Downs, because it's a huge area, like National Park. It's massive, and there have been photos taken and all kinds of things of that.
And I wouldn't mind it if Plumpton panther was real.
And I sort of feel like alien big cats are one of my paranormal things. Because like you, Eleanor, I'm like, I'm pretty skeptical. Like, I love the stories and I'll respect people's stories, but I'm pretty skeptical. But alien big cats, I don't know. There's a part of me that is like, yes.
Maybe.
And I think that's also partially because in my brain, I think if I came across a panther, that we would immediately be friends and that I would have it as a pet. You know what I mean? Which is...
Well, if I find it when I visit my parents,
I'll
send it over.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think for me, it is quite tricky because I'm very interested in monsters, just like as a topic in general, if you know what I mean. Like, what do we as people see as monstrous?
Yes.
What do we hate and despise, and why do we despise it? So but down the Mothman route, the Owlman of Mornan in Cornwall is a very similar kind of story. It particularly was flary during the 70s. But I'm from the southwest. That's where my family's all from. So Cornwall, Devon, Somerset. Like, I love the hairy hands of Dartmoor.
Oh,
They're
great
cool as
story.
hell, right?
Yeah.
But like, all of that stuff interests me. But like that, if you were to meet a man who was also an owl, a bit like meeting a man who was also a moth. I think it would be pretty. I'd like to see how the feathers all worked and intersected and his colouring, because I like owls at the best of times, and I prefer owls to moths.
I think Owlman and Mothman would get on quite well.
I fear that Owlman would try and eat Mothman, because like in the whole
that's
ecosystem.
true in the food chain. Do you think it would be relative sizes?
Yeah,
Owlman would be huge, and Mothman would actually be really small.
Yeah, and Mothman's like shit.
Yeah, exactly. The big boys are here. Yeah.
Yeah, I do love those little stories from towns like Owlman. I mean, what a great story. And I told you on your podcast, I spoke about the Kent, the hive Mothman who came from space, which is a story that I absolutely adore. But like, those stories are great. And do you know what? You've passed the cryptid test. I enjoyed both of those answers.
Good.
I mean, mine's always really boring. I always say the Loch Ness Monster, because I desperately want her to be real.
Wouldn't that be great?
Of course. I mean,
I would go and see Nessie for sure.
Yeah, we're both very interested in dinosaurs anyway. Big fans of rats as kids. Much more than space. Like, I was much more of a dinosaur kid than a space kid and an aliens kid. I've developed an appreciation for aliens over time. And when I say an appreciation for them, I mean kind of gripping terror that I really can't shake. But I think whenever I hear about like the story of a local monster or a local cryptid, I have to know more. And luckily we have a podcast where I can wang on about that with like a good justification.
Yes, you can be like, this is work.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Nessie has limbs. The ones I don't want to be real are the big snake type creatures.
There are
I'm
so
fine
many
if
of them.
Serpents and worms are not ever in my vicinity.
Particularly around Northumberland and County Durham, the north of England. There's a couple of different types, but they come up again and again and again. And there seems to be an association between Vikings and Widdoms.
Big snake.
And them coming out of wells or rivers. But there are also a kind of species of them that are described in a few places where they live in trees and fly between them. So when you're walking through particular forests, then little flying snakes that would skitter through and try and hunt you. And that's all like in the historical record, which I love. Those are factual creatures. They existed.
Yeah. They 100% they existed. Of course they did. Have you guys, and I know that Martin, we've spoken about this briefly in this episode, and your story was on the podcast. Have you had your own paranormal experience that you would like to share? And Eleanor's immediately like, no.
Well, I've had a couple, but I'm very kind of blasé about it. Yeah. You should say yours first. Well, okay. Well, because it sort of it happened around me.
Well, we obviously went ghost hunting. I mean, I had some that are from childhood and university and things like that. And like you, growing up, you have a ghost cat that runs across your house downstairs.
My parents' house, I feel like I have seen ghost cats.
Yeah.
But they don't do anything. They just run across. That's it, just out of the corner of the vision.
You go to look,
and
they're not there.
That's it, really. Yeah. It's not a very interesting haunting, really. It's obviously, I don't know, an echo of cat energy, because my parents' house is built on what used to be an old brickwork, so it makes perfect sense. Like, it would be full of rats and thus cats. But that's it, all they do.
Yeah. So, I mean, we've had a couple of like fairly juicy experiences, I'd say. Rye, great town, not that far from you.
Okay, no, this is a good one.
This is a good
Rye, just for anybody listening, very beautiful place, very well worth a visit. If you're in Kent area, go and see Rye.
Yeah, incredible historic town. Used to be a market town. Used to be really rich town because there was huge deep rivers beside it. But after a series of storms, all the rivers changed direction, and Romney Marsh, which is on the border of that whole area, changed. And we're very interested in Romney Marsh and exploring Romney Marsh. And so we've done a whole bunch of ghost hunting around Kent as well. And when we went to Rye, we were just wandering around the town, poking around. We were going for a ghost tour in the evening. We knew we were going to have a wander around. But when we went into, what's it called?
They call it Wipers Tower.
Yeah.
It's Eep Tower,
Yeah.
but locals call it Wipers.
Yeah.
It's a little guard tower.
Yeah, it's a Napoleonic defense
Yeah.
that was built in case the French invaded, basically.
And there's a museum and stuff in there now.
Yeah, but we were in there with Eleanor's dad, and we went downstairs into the dungeon, and down there while we were poking around, like they've got loads of historic helmets to try on and swords to swing.
Yeah,
so
of
course
fun
we were doing that.
Things.
And there was one other person down there, and this smell emerged that was just the most powerful smell of somebody soiling themselves. It was like an extraordinary, really awful, like eye-watering smell.
And we thought that the gentleman down there with us had maybe not had a good lunch or something, and was not very well.
That's a bit of an accident.
Yeah, and it really stank.
It was extreme.
And we didn't think anything of it. We got out of the dungeon because it smelled so bad. Thought nothing further of it, just like, gosh, maybe he needs to relieve himself soon. And later that evening on the ghost tour, the guy taking us around said, oh yeah, and this tower is haunted by a manifestation that stinks, and it will unleash this kind of sulphurous smell of waste. And we were like, no, really?
That was like, okay, well,
we went, it happened, put our hands up.
And there's no sewage system running through it, so that can't be explained. But also they used to run the ghosts tour through this old castle, this old fort, and you used to be able to go up and downstairs, and they stopped doing it because they had 6 quite serious injuries involving people being pushed downstairs, these stone steps, by this very old ghost, and also women in particular being sort of sexually harassed and touched by this spirit.
But not just women, people with long fair hair.
Yes.
So men as well.
Yeah,
were getting grabbed by this thing.
Yeah, with fair hair, long fair hair. So yeah, they didn't go there. So that's quite an interesting one, but it's like a kind of indirect, really deep and serious fart with lumps in kind of haunting.
Yeah, we call it just the poop ghost.
The poop ghost. So that's one. But then, like, when we've been a bit more serious about it and gone properly hunting, we did a tour around Romney Marsh, going to different churches, and the churches there are centuries old and have great history. A lot of them were used for smuggling. But we found one particular church on Romney Marsh where we'd taken our ghost box along with us, and we were beeping around places trying to find stuff. And we not only got a massive amount of activity out of this one particular spot where we'd been before, like we'd been there like 6 months before, and we were like, okay, let's go back there because we're going to get something again. Went back, got something again, and managed to figure out a method of communicating with this spirit through the box. And this was it was within a family's private chapel off to one side of this old church, and I was asking the spirit if it would beep when I got to its name as I worked down the people who were buried in this part, and it did. And we repeatedly tested it. We repeatedly went over it. There was a bit of confusion. I was like, it doesn't make sense what the spirit's saying. So we went away, did some more research, and found out that the ghost that we've been speaking to, there was a logical explanation for it. Her name was Martha Anna. And that's a Patreon exclusive episode of 3 Ravens, where we literally have this conversation with a ghost that you can listen to the beeping sounds.
It was one of those things that is quite inexplicable. I mean, I remain a bit suspicious of how good the ghost box is.
Yeah, of course.
And, is it responding to, magnets? Or I'm always like, magnets.
Yeah. But we took video there.
Yeah, I feel like the kit could be flawed.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but it was kind of, it was cool. It was a cool series of coincidences if it wasn't flawed.
It's just one of those places where you went in there and you went, yeah, okay, there's something here. Let's feel where it, because I'm a bit one of those people who has a bit of a,
yeah, you will pick up.
I get the tingles
much more, won't you?
Don't know about this place, and then if I can, fuss about in there and try and open up a conversation, or just try and spend time in the space, then sometimes I can kind of zero a little bit in on a thing or whatever it might be, which I realize makes me sound a little bit mad, but I feel like I'm in good company on the Real Life Ghost Stories podcast. Everybody understands that there are some people who have a little bit of that woo woo in them.
Yeah, no, I think there really are, and I don't think it sounds a little bit mad at all. Like I've got people in my life who you spend time with them and it is literally like being around a beacon. It like where you're like, how does all this stuff happen around you? And then when you sort of see it firsthand, you go, oh, there's something about you that is, I don't know, like attracting this or whatever. So yeah, totally understand what you mean by that. And I also love, Eleanor, how you're like, I don't know, the equipment, because I'm the same. Anytime it's anything ghost hunting, I'm like, no, but I want you to explain to me scientifically how it works. And people are like, well, the ghost uses the energy. What does that mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? How?
And I think that's fun because it doesn't really need to be explained. If you've managed to create a series of test conditions like that one, where it's like, okay, I'm holding this thing perfectly still. And we're saying, can you beep the box? And the thing can beep the box. However, the thing manages to beep the box. And then you manage to discern a series of bits of information that aren't random. And, you know, in that like weird interview recording thing that I've got, I ask it to repeat itself, to confirm, to use 2 beeps instead of 1. Like it follows through a kind of logical conversational sequence. And I was stood there freaking out because I was like, I can't believe this is happening. And I also can't believe that like we're going to be able to put this on our podcast. It's going to be cool.
Yeah. And I'm holding it, so he's not controlling it. I've just got it in my hands like this, but I don't know, could be my temperature.
it could be anything.
Yeah.
But you know, we spoke to Evelyn Hollow for Local Legends last year.
Yes.
And one of the things that Evelyn said, which you know I think is really helpful, is some people, no matter what evidence you present them with, are always going to say it's not real. It doesn't matter.
100%. And I have seen people where, like, you know, I've read a story or whatever, or I've found a story and it's, you know, it's incredible. The evidence is incredible, where you're like, holy shit, how did that happen? That can't be just a coincidence. And there is a level of mental gymnastics that people will go to try and find a, you know, I'm using kind of air quotes here, logical explanation. When you're like, listen, sometimes Occam's razor does apply. Like sometimes it's just a fucking weird thing that's happened. And you might need to accept that bending over backwards to try and find a scientific real world explanation might not actually be helpful in this instance.
No.
Yeah, and I wouldn't, you know, say that didn't happen. It's things have happened to you. I mean, we stayed in this haunted house in Suffolk.
We didn't know it was haunted.
No, we didn't know it was haunted.
Defense.
But everyone in it except me got haunted.
Yeah, absolutely. We all got haunted. And like we did that thing.
You know, those things happened.
Yeah.
Right? Our friend who was staying with us was downstairs after dark, and the light bulbs kept blowing out of the fittings when she was down there on the telephone. You know, like this repeatedly kept happening to her, and I know that happened, and I can't explain why that happened.
But it was quite interesting because we were all working together, doing like touring, acting, theatre company stuff, Eleanor's company, Rust and Stardust, and none of us wanted to tell the others that we'd had this experience because we didn't want to freak one another out, basically.
Yeah.
And so only afterwards did we go, well, this happened to me. Well, that's completely different to what happened to me. Well, that's completely different to what happened to me. But yeah, I was waking up.
Nothing happened to me.
I was asleep on my back. I know, asleep on my side, should I say? Yeah, lying on my side, and I felt a hand on my shoulder and my thigh, and it just rolled me over onto my back, and I still had my eyes closed. I presumed it was Eleanor who was like rolling me over to like lean over and say there's something in the house, like there's been a home invasion, her big nightmare. Go and sort it out. But then I just got this breath, very dry, stale breath of old cigarette smoke straight into my mouth, and lay there and thought, okay, that's not normal. But something else we'd noticed is the house, when you wandered around it, just randomly, it seemed you would get the smell of cigarette smoke, quite stale cigarette
just
smoke.
In a little patch.
Just in a little patch. And yeah, what we found out afterwards is that the woman who had previously owned the house had been a really heavy smoker, and she died in the house, and her daughter had painted all the walls white and like moved some of the furniture out.
Yeah, it was very kind of neutral. It had been kind of blank slated to be an Airbnb, basically.
So, her daughter had kind of just moved the house on, but her mum, I don't think, had moved on, and was a little bit uncomfortable about the fact that we were there. We were the first guests.
Yeah.
As well.
So
and you're the first guests.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't write anything in the review though.
No, we didn't.
Other people need to find that out for themselves.
Yeah, quite right.
And that smell of stale cigarette smoke is a really specific smell. That is a smell that you immediately know.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But also, like, you expect a breath to be warm. And when this kind of gasp, this breath went into my mouth, it wasn't warm, it was cold, but it had all the other qualities of your mouth being breathed into, which is an uncanny thing to happen anyway. But yeah, and then I sort of, because I was still, that's not Eleanor, I opened up my eyes and reached out, and no, Eleanor was completely dead asleep next to me. What do you do with that?
Yeah.
Lying awake until dawn going, okay, that's happened. I'm not going to tell anyone about it until we're gone.
Well, if you're me and Eleanor, you just go, oh, well, and go back to sleep.
Oh, well, yeah, exactly. When you did tell me, I was like, are you sure it wasn't me? Because I might have rolled you and breathed on you.
Yeah, but no, it definitely wasn't. And you were sleeping very happily to my right-hand side, and that all happened sort of from my left. But yeah, I don't know. Stuff happens.
Very strange. And stuff does happen. And it's amazing how you just go, well, that's happened. And I just have to continue living my life, and it is what it is. So you guys have obviously done a million bazillion episodes of Three Ravens by this point. What has been your favorite episode to date? So if you were to say to somebody, I want you to dive into the podcast, this is my favorite episode, it is the one I think that will hook you in. What is that episode?
Okay.
Oh, that's really difficult.
Interesting. I mean, we're talking real life ghost stories audience. So I'm just thinking, well, we should probably do something spooky. Every October, we run something called our haunting season, where the whole month is just wall to wall ghost stories and explicitly spooky stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that we've both written some pretty freaky stories for that. But one of the stories that you wrote about a haunted dress, which is, Three Ravens Haunting Season 2024, Episode 1. That is a scary tale, what you wrote, my love.
Oh, thank you. I mean, there's some pretty scary ones on there. But of county episodes.
I always say, try our Second Lap Devon episode, because that one, firstly, the story Eleanor tells in it is so beautiful and sad. It's called Kitty J's Grave, which is about this historic kind of shrine in Devon where people have been leaving flowers on this girl's grave for hundreds of years. And it's sort of why she died and the background to who Kitty J was. And
it's super sad.
Yes.
It's a really kind of upsetting legend.
Yeah, but
and
listeners,
when people hear that that's a legend, right, I would like to say that my friend Tim, who regularly does episodes with me, lives down that way, and every time he passes Katie J's grave, he will send me a picture, and there is always fresh flowers. So that when people hear it's a legend, this legend has, it exists in today's world. There are always fresh flowers on that grave.
Yeah, it's never gone away. And one of the things that's said about it is that the pixies leave the flowers for her.
Yeah. But that episode, like, how you get your nice episode reviews that pop up on Spotify or whatever, and one of our lovely listeners said that it was the perfect Three Ravens episode for people who didn't know Three Ravens, because it has a little bit of flirting in it. It's got loads of weird history. It's got some spooky stuff, strange recipes of old recipes from regional places in England. We're not necessarily known for our food, but we have catalogued the traditional food and drink of all of the historic counties of England. Plus, you get that quite beautiful and sad story. So it's quite a good introduction to us. How about you, though? What's your favorite one?
Well, one of my favorite ones that we've done, it's much dafter.
Oh yeah. I know what you're saying.
So I mentioned Rutland. Rutland's a really small county. And by the time Martin had done the first lap of folklore and a history of it, there was very little left. So I really, really tried to dig up things that he hadn't talked about. And I found that this dinosaur fossil had been discovered in really good nick in Rutland. And just decided to kind of structure the entire episode around this dinosaur. It's really dumb. Martin fortunately didn't tell me where to go and rolled with it and put some dinosaur sound effects on and everything.
So what Eleanor is skirting around is for the whole episode, the audio presentation is that we're riding around Rutland on the back of a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I mean, of course.
Yeah.
So lots of roaring and stamping sounds as we're like, if you look over there is the remnants of a windmill that used to be haunted in Oliver Cromwell's day or whatever else it might be.
There's a lot of academics in folklore, and I think it is possible to take yourself too seriously.
Yes.
So we went really far in the other direction from that.
And Rutty the dinosaur, which is its actual name.
Its name is Rutty.
It's on display in Leicester Museum. But yeah,
cute.
So that's our second lap, Rutland.
So, very important question, and I say that without any sense of humor. What prompted you guys to write a book? Because this is the exciting bit.
Well, it's pretty cool. Yeah. Your copies of the book, by the way, are in the post. Yeah, they're coming to you. Yeah. So, we are both, well, truth is, Emma, we'd heard about this newfangled thing. Rather than a screen where you can like scroll around, apparently these book things are like new and hip, and you get like just words printed on like pulped paper, and then you can keep them in your house.
What he's trying to say is that it's been a dream of both of us since we were kids to have a book published. There's never been really a time in our lives when we've not been either actively writing or trying to write or feeling insecure because we think we can't write. Or like writing is something that stays with us all the time.
Yeah.
So this feels like such a culmination of something we've both wanted to do for the longest time.
It's massive because we both for years, ever since teenage times, have been submitting for, short story competitions, poetry competitions, playwriting competitions, script writing for TV and film as well.
And trying to sell novels and failing.
Yeah. And, we have won a few awards as writers along the way. But one of the things that most writers who've won awards will tell you is it doesn't make that much difference, really, to be honest with you. And I think across our lifetimes, because we're similar ages, the book has become a less important thing in the lives of a lot of people. But for us, you can see behind us, this is
important to us.
Part of the non-fiction section of our book collection. We're obsessed with books. And so to have a book, what really happened was I like in the pandemic, I was really, really ill, really, really, really ill. And Eleanor had to look after me, and it was a really hard time for us both. And afterwards I came out of it and went, okay, well, you are not dead, but if you had died, what would you regret having not done? And one of the things was not doing my master's. So I enrolled in a master's and did that part-time. And the other thing was to finally get a book published. How the heck are we going to do it? Eleanor's a brilliant writer. I'm a brilliant writer. At least you try and build yourself up a little bit. What are we going to do? And so the podcast became a mechanism whereby we had to write. We were on a timeline. We were on a deadline. We had to churn out stories, and they had to be good. Otherwise, it was a waste of time.
And people wouldn't like to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, if you listen to the first few episodes of Three Ravens, you will hear quite quickly a development of our stories as they expand and become a bit more ambitious. Because, the first few episodes, we had really crappy, cheap microphones. We didn't really know what we were doing.
I'm nervous about reception, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess, obviously, you've been running quite a lot longer than us.
Yes.
But if you think back to when you first started, you have no idea what people are going to think.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly for me, right at the beginning, I was very nervous about presenting myself as a serious person, which is not true. But I think because having a sort of escaped an academic-ish possibility of a pathway, there's still a thing about being a woman in academia, being taken seriously, not being too fluffy. And I was very worried about that. I was really conscious about it.
Yeah.
And it's not my personality to be serious the entire time. Absolutely not. And so we quickly were able to discard that. And now on In Our Time.
That kind of vibe.
Which is good. Because that's not us. It's not how we talk to each other.
Yeah. But we were really lucky in that what happened to us is after about 2-3 months, we suddenly had an audience. It just started to grow, and it's not really stopped growing since that time. Like, we call it the conspiracy of ravens, our listener base, because we're a cult thing. We're not big.
No.
Certainly, like we're doing all right for England and the UK podcast charts, but compared to the global ones, we're not really listening too much overseas, which makes sense because we've been focused on English folklore most of all. But what happened to us is, over time, the success of the podcast spilled over to a point where we were invited to submit our stories by a publisher, rather than for years and years and years having tried to write spec novels and spec scripts and things like that and send them off to literary agents or publishers. Dozens of people have read our work in the industry and turned it down every single time.
Yep.
So it wasn't the quick route to getting published, let's say. It was a very long way around. But the way we think about it is, it's like
a very, very long way to the back door.
Yeah, very, very long way to the back door, because we demonstrated not only are these stories good enough to be in books, but also look what people say about them. Look, they're telling their friends about them. It's becoming more and more successful week by week, month by month. So can you please think about putting the stories we've done into a book? And it turns out that people are really happy with the book and really happy with the podcast, and we're like, all right, that's life goal unlocked. What now?
I think it's an incredible testament to you guys, your storytelling abilities, your creativity, your work ethic, all of those things, that this is how you got there. Do you know what I mean? That somebody looked at your stories, listened to your stories, and went, "Oh, this is good." Do you know what I mean? And that's how it's ended up in a book. I think that's a really fair play to you both, because that's an amazing achievement, and so well deserved. Because I'm sure that people listening will be able to empathize with elements of imposter syndrome. And I'm glad that you said, you spend your time writing, trying to tell yourself you're a good writer.
Yeah.
That's what happens. You end up being like, am I really shit at this? And I just don't know.
Well, week by week, because we try and stretch what we do, because you're writing stories week on week. You need to shift perspectives, you need to shift genres, you need to shift tones. You can't just be telling M.R. James style ghost stories every single week. It's going to get deadening. So you need to mix it up and have funny things and romantic things and adventurous things, as well as terrifying
and
things.
some of that's not for everyone.
No, absolutely
we've all
not.
got things we like to listen to and read more than others.
But as we went on, we were putting out stories week on week, going, this is going to be the week they hate it. This is going to be the week everyone's like,
I thought
the
Kitty J's grave story would be absolutely hated, because I tried to do it in Devon dialect, which was more of a performance reach than a writing reach.
Yeah.
But I think we got away with it.
Well, one of the consequences of that is, we were messaged by an American listener who said, Eleanor, I have now listened to Kitty J's Grave 5 times. I now understand it all, and I wanted to explain to you how much this story means to me. And then wrote us a lovely email, wrote Eleanor a lovely email about that story.
But it took her 5 goes to understand all the words.
You're sticking with it 5 re-listens, though. That is incredible. What a wonderful thing. It's been... The other thing to put in perspective for people listening to this who want to write and want to get books published is, when we started the podcast, Eleanor's confidence about her own writing was nil. It was absolutely nothing. You didn't think you had it at all.
Well, it was worse than that. I thought I'd had it and it was gone.
Yeah.
I thought I was hyper fixating on having really been able to write very well in 2018, and then it's all broken apart since then. And that was really unhelpful. But I was struggling with, not being able to finish anything, starting stuff thinking it was crap and binning it out.
Yeah.
All of this. Really needed the deadline thing. Also, to change it up a bit, because I've been trying to write in the long form, and I've not finished a novel for years. Maybe the long form's just not for me.
Well, you also have to train yourself to do it. I think.
You do, yeah. It's a marathon, isn't it? If you were training for a marathon, you wouldn't just do the marathon. You'd do lots of little runs to prep up. I mean, I say this as someone who never runs and probably can't, but I imagine. But
before we did Three Ravens, I wrote a book as part of my recovery from this illness, and And I've put that out as a separate podcast, separate to Three Ravens. People can listen to it. And it's called The Heartless Knaves. And it's like a historical kind of horror
fantasy
book. Horror fantasy book. But the stories that I was wanting to tell were always too long, too complicated, too Byzantine. And I could understand why a publisher wouldn't go for The Heartless Knaves, because it is a little bit of a doorstopper of a book. And when you learn about the economics of how many pages efficiently go into a hardback and how many of those you can fit into a cardboard box and what people will pay for them, suddenly you're like, oh, okay, that's why
why you like short books.
Yeah, that's why the books that are successful often are. It's a weird economic decision more than anything else.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think that often people don't realize that, and I'm so glad for you guys that your hard work and talent has been recognized in this way, because it's such an amazing thing. And I think it's very easy to lose confidence in an industry that involves writing, because my God, it's hard.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, I think one of the things hitting writers, and we've spoken about this with guests on Three Ravens, is, this whole AI revolution, blah, blah, is, I think, chipping away at people's reading skills, their thinking skills, and also how they value writing. And I think the way that we've kind of tried as best we can to counterattack that is by going quite weird and quite specific. An AI is never, ever going to think that half of our stories would be a good idea.
No, that's true.
Well, especially if you're riding around on the back of a dinosaur.
It's not going to come up with that. Thank goodness. But it's cost of living thing as well, isn't it? People aren't able to go out to the theatre and see live work anymore, and that spills back up to the venues, who then have to charge more for tickets, making it even less accessible. It's really hard to reach people.
Libraries and bookshops, and how do you do it? And I think our approach, because we are just two people, when we started it, we were in a relationship. We're now married. And we just had to try and figure out social media stuff as we've gone on.
But which just seems to be a constantly evolving beast as well.
It changes all the time. There's no rhyme or reason. It is a nightmare.
It's scary, but you have to do stuff. And again, I've always kind of looked at Real Life Ghost Stories as one of those podcasts where I'm like, Emma always puts out cool stuff. We need to put out more cool stuff like Emma does. And so then, for us, it's always then the challenge of going, okay, what's different? Like, how would we do it?
You're so much better on the TikToks than we
are. Don't.
We're like TikTok babies, honestly. We're just still...
I mean, thank you, but I literally view TikTok as, and I shouldn't say this, but I look at it as a chore. I used to try and post daily, but you know what? It's an obnoxious platform, and I end up going, oh, I haven't posted a TikTok in months. Oh no, I probably should. And then I just find it very, very difficult I just want to tell stories. That's all I want to do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly. Know exactly what you mean.
And you start resenting it, don't you?
Yeah.
You're like, just let me do the thing. But if you don't tell people about the thing, they won't know about it.
Well, one of the things
exactly.
that's been, very beautiful about doing Three Ravens, and I imagine very similar for you in different ways, Emma, is the way that people are with you week on week on week, month on month on month. And so from the little incidental things you mention about yourself or about your life or the things you like or the things you've done, people start to build up a picture of you in their head, and you begin to have a kind of relationship with people. And because we're a couple as well, I think it's meant a lot to people to have us negotiate life together, and for people to listen to that and follow along with us. Because, when we started, nobody was listening to the podcast. And then all of a sudden people started, and you can listen to us relaying how our lives are having to change and twist and move. So there's a kind of like personal drama aspect to
not a very dramatic drama, but
not a lot of the time.
But it's still a lovely thing for people to hold on to and be like, oh, these guys are comfortable to listen to. Do you know what I mean? And you become somebody's safe space, which is it's a real privilege to be. I think it's a real privilege to hold on to.
And it's something that so many people need at the
Yes.
moment. The world's a scary place right now.
I need it. I mean, I keep coming back to it, but during the pandemic, real life ghost stories, the History of England podcast. There are probably a handful. Like, we have a page on our website which is dedicated to independent podcasts that we love, and sincerely, every podcast that's there, we listen to it, we love it, and we think everybody else should listen to it too. Because one of the nice things about podcasts is you can never really get too many podcasts.
No,
you can't.
And that's why we like meeting other independent podcasters, because that community as well, the podcaster community rather than just the listener community, is so lovely and supportive.
Oh, it's been incredible.
And it really does feel like we've kind of got each other.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, definitely.
I think trying to lift each other up is the important part.
Because it's not a competition in the same way the sort of BBC podcasts seem to view it, because people don't have a fixed number of podcasts they can listen to.
No.
You don't say, oh, well, I filled my 10, I don't listen to any others. That just doesn't happen.
Also, I think it's normal to maybe fall out of a podcast for a bit.
Yeah, and then come back to it, and there's loads of new episodes, and that's great.
Yeah, exactly.
We all do it. We all do it, where you listen to a podcast, then you sort of don't for a while, and then you're like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that, and you go back and catch up with it. Because people say to me all the time, I feel like, whatever, the podcast market is oversaturated, but I'm like, shh, stop that. No, it isn't. And you know what? A lot of the stuff that's out there is not great. So I wouldn't worry about it being oversaturated,
No.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that we were absolutely intent on is making a promise to people when we started that we would do 13 episodes, and that would be a whole series.
And consistency, and certainly Real Life Ghost Stories inspired us a lot with the consistency, because you just 3 episodes a week, it's out.
It's ready. Yeah, so that I think
people can expect it.
It becomes part of your routine. Like, I remember learning, I think when I was a teenager, about the psychology of soap operas, which might not sound related, but stick with me. Which is that people will tune into the same soap opera because the characters on a soap opera have more interesting lives than their real life friends, and often are more reliable, i.e. they're there every day at 6, they're there every day at 8, whatever. Every Thursday at 9 I get to see my friends, and they're going to do some weird stuff, and I'm going to enjoy it. Well, that's completely the same thing. You rely upon these people to, I think, program your week, help you with your emotional regulation. I certainly do that. Like listening to a particular piece of music.
Yeah, it's amazing, really, that I suppose the role that podcasting plays without even realizing, beyond the storytelling, beyond the spreading awareness or spreading just folkloric stories around the place. Yeah, there's a whole other psychological aspect to it that I suppose you don't think about when you start, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm a part of people's lives.
Yeah, and then once that's happening, it can't stop, which in a way is kind of cool, because it's like, well, we said early in the podcast we felt a bit lonely and isolated after the pandemic, especially, and that we wanted to meet more people like us. And what's happened through Three Ravens is this community of amazing people has come forward, and they take much more interest in our well-being than many of the people in our quote unquote real lives immediately around us. People are like, so how are you doing with this health thing? Or how are you doing with that health thing? Or how did it go? Well, you mentioned you were going to do this. I was like, oh my goodness, you remember.
How do you remember this stuff?
Yeah, it's crazy. But that's what happens when you're a feature in people's lives, is that they do. Like you said, they pick up on these little things that seem sort of, that seem to be like a sidebar for you guys. But people pick up on it, which is wild, really. What is your favorite lesser known bit of English folklore?
Oh gosh, for lesser known, I always go with the comedy ones, because I think people don't know about them, but really ought to, because they'll have a good laugh. I like the Highclere Grampus, which is a monster from Hampshire, which supposedly takes the form of a gigantic, monstrous fish beast that lives up a tree. So it's not subject to the usual rules of fish, and it lives a tree, and it just scares people by making a horrible noise.
Mm.
We don't know what the noise is. I'm imagining a kind of horrible wail, but yeah, that's all it does. It lives up its tree and screams at you.
And apparently they got rid of it by banishing it. A wizard came and banished it from the churchyard in which it was living in this tree in Highclere in Hampshire to the Red Sea, where it would stay for 1,000 years. But
that was a while ago.
It was a while back.
It's probably coming back anytime soon.
It's time for some Grampus groaning, I think, in Highclere. So yeah, that one's great. And then, like, I don't know. Again, like, sometimes it's just the silly ones that stick in your head. But I really quite like the headless ghost duck of Little Stanny, which is a legend from Cheshire, where there was a road on which there was a terrifying duck, and the duck was so violently attacking the people who tried to pass down this Cheshire road, this Cheshire lane, that a mob assembled of local people, and they hunted and eventually beheaded the duck, thinking, right, problem solved. No, problem was not solved, because what they just created was a headless ghost duck poltergeist nightmare that continued to haunt this lane, which is now like a side road or a by road by quite a large shopping centre. But nonetheless, apparently, from time to time, if people walk down this like cut through tiny old lane, they will still be harassed and terrified and messed with by the headless ghost duck of Little Stanny.
But only at ankle height.
Yeah, presumably, yeah.
You know what? Ducks and geese specifically can be quite vicious.
Yeah, yeah.
Do I believe that necessitates a mob forming? I don't think so. He was just a duck.
Well, people didn't have TV, obviously.
No, it's true. Hey guys, what's going on tonight? Yeah, not much. Do you want to hunt a duck?
Yeah, Gordon's had a really difficult day with a mallard down the lane.
Yeah.
Let's get together,
let's get the pitchforks.
Yeah.
I just love it. The absurdity of both stories. Fish up a tree, headless duck poltergeist. I'm in.
Yeah. When you start to read into historic ghosts, medieval ghosts, what you find out quite quickly is they're a lot weirder than a lot of our modern conceptions of ghosts. So, like, boggarts is another name for ghost supernatural entities in the north of England in particular. But you'll encounter things like a boggart that appears like a sheep in the road, and it looks angrily at you. But the longer you stay observing the boggart, the larger it will swell until it floats up as a vast kind of cloud-like monstrous presence that shines into the sky. And everyone is so terrified of the kind of supernatural fire pouring off this expanding sheep boggart that they all run away in terror.
I mean, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
The more you spoke just then,
the
more I was like, where does this story end?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because what are you going to do about that? At the end of the day, like, also no one stays to the end of the story, because either the sheep presumably is going to like continue to expand to the size of a nation or the planet, or it's going to explode in like a big ball of fiery flame.
But only while observed.
Yeah, but that's it. It's like you have to look at it. It's like an enemy in Super Mario or something, where like the ghosts, you turn your back on them and then they move. Like this one, you look at it and it expands.
I'm desperate to know. That's it. I'm finding the sheep.
I'm going to drive up there, find the sheep.
Yeah,
and I'm going to stare at it until whatever happens. That's how the world ends.
Just locking eyes.
Me staring at a sheep.
You and me, baby, we're in this till the end.
England explodes as woman stares at giant sheep boggart.
Yeah. I mean, if there was ever going to be a headline about me, I'd want it to be that. So finally, why should people listen to Three Ravens? And perhaps more importantly, well, not really more importantly, but why should they buy the book?
I'd say that the most cool thing about Three Ravens is the community around it. So we're very lucky to sort of, it feels like, be the figureheads of what's happening. but it's the Conspiracy of Ravens. They are the best people. So on social media, if you engage with listeners, and much like with real life ghost stories, people are so nice and helpful, and they take an interest in one another. So if you're looking for like folky friends, then that is, I think, one of the big things that our podcast offers you. Outside of that, it's folklore, it's folk ways, so how people behaved in the past, to compare that to now, and then tons and tons and tons of quite strange stories.
And we do a lot of research, but I hope that we're not off-puttingly academic. Like you get a lot of jokes, a lot of bad puns, a lot of silly flirting, and dinosaur noises occasionally.
Yeah, occasionally. But I think at the end of each episode, we try and offer like our footnotes, i.e. these are the books that we read that are relevant to this episode that we've created. So people can go and do more research. And I know that one of our lovely listeners is currently putting together like a proper Three Ravens bibliography that people can then refer to access like the reading list,
really cool.
Which is super awesome. Yeah, people have really been helpful to us. I mean, you know what it's like, Emma. The difference people can make by just sharing stuff with their friends and going like into their WhatsApp chat. I really like this podcast. You guys should check it out. That is how we grow. That's how we live. And for us, it's how we literally keep the roof over our head, because we, like you, have taken that leap to try and go, right, professional podcasting, let's throw everything we've got at this. We can live on very little for a while. If we like put all the chips on Three Ravens and just go for it, maybe that can just be our life. And so far, fingers crossed, that the prospects look quite good.
So on that note, where can people find you?
The best place is through our website at threeravenspodcast.com. Everything's there. It's kind of our shop window, sort of hub to links out to every episode we've ever done, our Patreon, all of our social media. It's all on there.
Yeah, and we've done things like organized series on Spotify if you want to just listen to particular things or whatever it might be. And all of our social media, like you say, is linked through there, the Patreon. So threeravenspodcast.com is the place.
Please do go and check out Three Ravens Podcast. Check out the website, have a look at their book, have a look at their other projects that they're doing roundabouts. Eleanor and Martin, thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much for having us, Emma. It's been great. You've asked brilliant questions which have got our brains in a twist and also been a lot of fun.
Also, it's just really nice whenever we have a two-way conversation, Emma, because normally in our house it's just you chatting to us and you don't ever listen when we reply.
That makes it sound like Emma doesn't listen to us.
Well, yeah,
I don't listen to a word that you said.
It doesn't. Yeah.